It's a story we talked about in the past. I remember having Valerie Plante on the show maybe a year or so ago, and problem was she'd post on social media and people would react, and some people just, go over the top, and it gets to a point where, it's one thing if someone disagrees with a policy or an opinion you have. It's another if it becomes threatening. And on her official social media page, I guess, the mayoral page, they turned comments off. And a lot of people commented on that decision at the time. But what we also know is lots of politicians, municipal politicians around this province, and the number, and I can't dig it up right now, but I know the number is fairly high, have simply decided, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not worth the threats, the intimidation, or for whatever reason, it's not what you thought it was going to be when you got involved in municipal politics. So we're coming up to a municipal election, of course, in just a few months, in the fall of this year. And from what I'm reading here, maybe it's not as bad as it was before, but when you read a story that suggests, you know what, maybe there are not going to be enough municipal politicians to fill every available seat, it's worth chatting about. So Despina Sourias is a Projet Montreal, city councillor, and she's on the line. Hi, Despina.
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
I'm pretty good. You're a woman, and I'm saying this only because from what I read, it's harder for women, more difficult for women and young people to get involved here. So how bad is it, and do you think it's going to get worse before it gets better?
That's a good question. I mean, my personal experience, it wasn't always easy to be on the forefront of decisions we make, or I get citizen dissatisfaction with some of the things going on, and beyond what we're doing specifically. I'm still motivated to go. I think this round will be a little bit hard to motivate people to get on board for this election, but I think it will get better once we adjust to the new reality, which is the online reality. We are online, so we don't have time, or we don't have a space to turn off, let's say, the mic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before it was, you would go on TV, you'd go on the radio, you would hear things, you would say things. People see you on the street, they might talk to you, but here it's kind of constant, so you really have to have a lot of discipline not to kind of always follow and give into that. And I do think that we have proper channels of communications with citizens. We have emails, or my line is always open, my phone line is always open. We have emails as well, like I said. So, and we have our city council and borough council meetings where people could come present and ask us questions, which is not the case for other levels of government. And I think that also is a positive thing, meaning you could create closer ties with citizens and really get to know them and really understand their needs, their visions. Sometimes, whether you agree or not, it creates some sort of bond. And that could also make it more difficult to deal with the criticism, So I think it's not easy to be in politics, but for me personally, I love it. I love being around people. I love being able to contribute very concretely to my district in Loyola, to NDG, a place that I've known for a very long time. So it is not easy. But the people who do want to go into municipal politics are few, but they're really adamant about it. So that's always the game. That's the truth. It's when you're in it and you really want it. There's not a million people that want to do it, but the ones that want to do it are in it. You know?
The problem I think with that though is you're right. I think they are committed when they decide to do it. I think it's just a lot of people look at it now and said, you know what? As I said off the top, I see what some people in politics have to go through, and I'm not sure I want to expose myself to that.
Yeah, and you have your family. If there's a threat to your family and you have little kids, your personal life is kind of on the radar. So for sure, it's something that might turn off a lot of people. I found that it was a little easier than I thought it would be. I was really not sure about it, being in the public and having to deal with that. But it's only my first mandate too. So, people get to know you better over time. So you might feel more that public pressure.
Well, let me ask you that. This is your first mandate, so it's not as if you've been doing this for 15 years.
No.
When you look back at this and in the time that you've been doing this, have there been instances where someone has reached out, and it's not been very pleasant, and they've had something to say which didn't necessarily even have to do with policy, but was an attack on you that made you rethink, maybe this isn't for me?
I would say what has been harder for me is when I see people having a difficult time or suffering with something and me not being able to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's harder for me. And when people, I haven't had vicious attacks. I had disagreements. People don't agree with something I've done or we've done. But I found not being able to help them the way that they want, that's what's hard. And I find that's what's harder for me, I would say. And I think that also might be realizing that in politics, people think you have all the power in the world to fix everything, but it takes like as much as it's in our hands.
And that's a disappointment to them because they thought, oh, this isn't that big a deal. And then, of course, it's not one person who can change it.
No, it's not one person. It's not one political body. It's not one government level. It takes a lot of coordination. It takes, for some things like the homelessness issue, for example, which is very hard to see at a very human level. Yeah. It's not just in the city's hands, but you want to have all the answers, and that's where I find harder.
By the way, I mentioned off the top, and I wasn't kind of blowing smoke here, because I remember doing the story. So I just double checked again. Since the 2021 municipal elections, that's the last municipal election, 740 out of Quebec's 8,000 local municipal politicians, that's nearly 10% have resigned. And for a variety of different reasons, but we know a lot of that is because of threats or God knows harassment, whatever, intimidation. And it's understandable why people don't want to get involved.
Exactly. It's that. And it's, again, I think the feeling of powerlessness in certain regards with the rising affordability issues that we have, climate change issues that are affecting our cities. And again, we don't have all the tools in our hands to fix it, and post-COVID as well. I think that affects, and there's a turnaround as well with people who have been there for a little while that are leaving. They've done 2-3 mandates and they're leaving. I think our generation of politicians might not stay in, might leave on their own terms sooner than prior politicians did. So that also plays a role. But I thought about it a little bit as well. And as a woman, we do manage. We have that extra mental load of family that I think that is not. It does fall a lot on women still. I mean, not in my home. My husband is very involved in things that has helped me as well. I have to say that. But it does play a role in the decision you make, whether you stay or not, because we all want to do good, right? So.
I wonder, too, at the end of the day, when you sit and look at something like this and think to yourself, look, we know that, we have the numbers that show us that people have left, right? You want to do something right. You want to represent your community. You go into politics. The next thing you know, they're threatening, intimidating, harassing, and you're saying, you know what? Ça suffit. No, I don't need this. I don't want this. But I wonder, based on that, if going forward, right, why don't we just, and I know the mayor took heat for this. I started my conversation with you by saying that for turning off the comment section. I'm like, why don't we turn off all the comment section? What happened to showing up at a council meeting or even if it was by email, just asking your question that way, rather than getting into a debate or harassing someone online? Why is that even available? I don't know that you can necessarily say, we'll turn that off. But as I said, when the mayor decided to do it, and I thought she was right to do it because no one deserves that, is that something that gets considered or not?
You mean to
turn off? No comments. Yeah, you want to comment? Show up at a city council meeting.
There are people who turn it off. I've not that many, but it is sometimes overwhelming, and the level of violence that comes off online is actually more abundant than what you'd see in person, because people don't act the same way online as they do in person. Yeah. So it might be a deterrent for people. If you turn it off, they won't go. They'll be upset about it, but they'll find other ways.
Well, I wonder if we get to that one point, where we simply say, look, I'm a politician. I'm here working for you, the citizen, but I should not be subjected to this kind of harassment if it's harassment. And no comments. I said.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of legal framework to support that right now for the municipal level, to say, okay, we could have, if we're being harassed, it becomes you have to go through normal court. But as a public figure that's elected, should we have certain protections? Maybe, how seriously do you take a threat? So there's all that legal and evaluation of what is a threat, what is,
Sure, no, I get that.
So all that is not there yet. So, will it, maybe in time it will, for the protection of all our, elected officials, but at the same time, we are public figures. We have a leadership role to play, so we have to be able to take a little bit of the negative the feedback that we get.
Yeah, I appreciate as long as it's a little. When it's every day and overpowering, then I don't think anyone should have to deal with that.
That's another story.
Listen, I got to wrap up. I will mention, by the way, if someone out there is thinking about running for municipal politics, get out there, let your voice be heard, and let someone know you want to do this, because there's room.
Call me.
There's room. Despina, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
All right, Despina Sourias, Projet Montreal City Councillor, on the fact that there may be fewer people running, and that means some jobs either by acclamation if people decide to stay, or they'll just remain open. Who knows? You want to get involved in politics? Here's your chance.